Hi, thank you for watching my channel today. My name's Sarah and my channel is called Yourtrueshelf, and today I'm going to film a wrap up of some books that I've read recently because I was obviously out of action for a month, and so it's been a long while since I've done either like a haul or a wrap up or a Friday reads or anything like that. And I am shocked and surprised by the size of my eye bags in this video. I didn't realise they were quite so dark, so just ignore those. So I have a mix of books here. I think I'm just going to do them in the order there in front of me, and let's kick off. So the most recent one I read actually is a library hauls book, which was Assembly by Natasha Brown, and I decided I was going to not go mad in the library this year because then I wouldn't read from my shelves, and I completely stuck to that. But I was in the big library in the centre of Norwich last week, and we were in Waterstones beforehand, and my daughter was looking for books which we decided we'd then go and order from the library. And I just saw this, and I looked for a few other books that were on my wish list, and I've wanted to read this for a while, and it's such a tiny book that I read it in 24 hours. So this book is about an unnamed protagonist who is a black woman who is living and working in London, and it's a series of vignettes about what it's like for her to work in the city as a woman of colour. And she talks about how, because of the sort of sacrifice and challenges that her previous generations have faced, she feels like there's this pressure to succeed and to do well in life. And all of those things is getting a good education, like she went to Oxford, getting a good job, so she works in the city, having plenty of money, investing in a property, getting married, having children, having, you know, this sort of kind of luxurious life, investments and pensions and all of these kind of things. And she doesn't want any of those things really. And her job sounds really horrible. She works in, I think it's finance in the city, and she constantly faces these horrendous comments from so many people. I think all of them actually in the book are probably men, and there's lots of little vignettes, like little clips of conversations that she has, and about how if she gets a promotion, people say to her, well, yeah, you got a promotion because they need more diversity on their statistics. Or they'll say, like, it's easy for you as a black person because everyone wants to give you an easier time, and therefore it's much easier for you in this world. And like, people who have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. And it's just like the constant stuff that she faces, as well as being unhappy. And she's with a white boyfriend. His family are really wealthy, and I think they have like a country estate and stuff, and she's going there for this party. She feels like she's sort of graciously tolerated by his family, and he works in politics, and she also wonders whether he's kind of showing how liberal he is by dating a black woman and stuff. So she's got lots of difficult things going on, and she's also been told that she's got cancer, and she doesn't want to have any treatment because she's just sick of how hard everything is and how much she doesn't like her life, and she actually just wants to have control over this one decision and choose not to be treated for the cancer. So there's a lot going on in such a tiny book, but it's done really powerfully. And I think having the vignette style really works for this because it's like showing you scenes of her life. And I gave this one 4.5 stars. I thought it was a really masterful book, and I will 100% look forward to whatever she releases next. Then we move on to something entirely different, and this is Boudica by Amanda Scott. This is the first in the series about Boudica's life. And I buddy read this with Aaron from Aaron Read a Book, or Aaron Read a Book, which was our first buddy read, and we both thoroughly enjoyed the book. This is an incredible piece of historical fiction, so we can't know a lot about this time period because there wasn't written records of most of this time period. But Amanda Scott has taken the evidence that we have from the time and from the time period and all of the research that's out there, and she's turned it into this world which feels a complete immersion of what it was like living in Britain at the time of sort of the early AD years in late Iron Age Britain. And also we get bits of France and Rome as well as the book progresses. And this book spans from when she's about 12 to when she's in her, I want to say like mid-20s or early 20s. And I can't tell you how good it is. It's so, so good. It's like you learn about the living conditions, about the customs, about how people are either warriors or dreamers, and how dreamers are like connected with the gods, and how they'll be told things in dreams, and then they'll talk about those with the people who are the rest of their family and the warriors in their group, and then they'll make decisions and stuff based on the dreams. And we just learn about the battles and the animals and everything, and we really grow to love the characters in this book. And then we'll also be learning about Rome, because we know from now that there was a Roman invasion of Britain, obviously, and so this is kind of brewing at the same time. And it's just interesting as well, like seeing there's a few maps in this, and you can see how Britain was divided up into all the different kind of tribes people at the time. And she's obviously from the Iceni tribe, but it was just so fascinating and engaging. And as soon as I finished, I wanted to just go back to their world again. I didn't want to come out of it. And so both of us have bought the next book, which is called Dreaming the Bull. And we're planning on starting our next buddy read quite soon, because I think we both just want to go back to Boudica's time. So if you like historical fiction, especially sort of very old periods of time, then I would thoroughly recommend this. Linking in with that is an audiobook that I finished, which was the second in the Wolfden trilogy, which was The House with the Golden Door. And this is really interesting to be listening to at the same time. I didn't do it on purpose, but it's set in pretty much exactly the same time as Boudica, but it's all set in Italy. And it's just really interesting how different Rome feels to how different Britain is at that period of time. So in the Wolfden, which is the first of the books, we're following Amara, who has been sold into slavery, and she's working as a sex worker, enslaved, and it's about her and her fellow sex workers in this brothel called the Wolfden, which is led by a man called Felix, who is just vile. And it's about how just about their lives, and I won't say like what happens in book 1, because obviously that's a spoiler, but book 2 was the next part of Amara's life, and there is a book 3 which I also own. But Rome in that time feels so different to Britain. It's like everyone has houses, they have baths, they have heating, they have just incredibly different ways of life to Britain, which was very much like round huts and completely different, less sort of not technologically, but less archaeologically advanced and stuff like that in Britain, and just very, very different. You'd never have thought that those things were happening concurrently. So it was really fascinating reading those books together, and I absolutely loved The House with the Golden Door. This trilogy so far has been, I think I gave The Wolfden 5 stars, this one 4.5 stars. But it could easily have been a 5-star. And then we've got one more, which I think is called The House of Fortuna, which is the last book in the trilogy, which I'm going to listen to soon. So that was like a really great historical fiction time. Then I read my TBR spin book for the month of, I think it was June, was a book that I was most looking forward to on my TBR spin stack, and I picked The Passing Playbook by Isaac Fitzsimons. I got this in London last year when I went for my birthday, and my friend and I went round several bookshops in London, and this is one of the things that I hauled. I got this from Gaze the Word, and this is a YA book. Apologies if you can hear my cat snoring in the background, because she snores really loudly, and if you can hear a snoring noise, that's what you're hearing. This is it's set in America. It's about a boy called Spencer, who is really good at football or soccer, I guess, and he is playing for the school team. He started at this school recently because he was at a previous school where he was, against his will, outed for being transgender, and he was really bullied at school, had a horrible time, and so he was moved school, and this time nobody knows that he's trans. And he is quite shy, and he manages to make a couple of friends, and they are football players, and he's really good at football and he really wants to play, and he joins the team and everything's going really well. And then he starts having feelings for one of the guys on his team who's his friend, and this guy comes from a really sort of fundamental Christian background, and so he doesn't know whether he can tell him that he has feelings. He doesn't know whether his feelings are reciprocated. So there's that storyline. And there's also the fact that one day he has to hand in some ID and stuff for the football team, and he gets accidentally outed because his birth certificate says female on it, and the coach thinks this is an admin error and asks him to get it sorted. But in his state, the law is that even if you have transitioned and you've changed your name and everything like that, you can't change the law. You can't change the gender on your birth certificate, and therefore he can't do this. And so they have to figure out what to do because the law says that he can't play on the boys' football team. So there's lots covered in this book. It's covered in quite a gentle way, and I think it would be a really good read for teens, especially teens who are trans or gender dysphoric. I think it would be like a really helpful book for them, or anyone who's queer or interested in learning more about issues in this book. Sorry, I'm getting pins and needles on my leg. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I think I gave it like 3.5 because I wasn't like super in love with it, even though I thought it was a good book. So I would still recommend it, and it's going to stay on my shelves because I'm building up my collection of sort of middle grade and YA books so that my kids have plenty of books to choose from. But yeah, I still recommend it. One of the books I read while I was unwell, which was a really good timing for reading this, was Scripted by Fearne Cotton, which I mentioned in my midyear freakout tag. And Fearne is a presenter, author, DJ, all-round lovely person in the UK who I followed for many, many years. I got to meet her and she signed my copy of my book, and she was just so lovely. This is her first fiction book, and this is about a character called Jade who's in her early 30s. She's living with her boyfriend Adam. She's not that happy. Adam's a bit of a dick, really, and she doesn't put anything in motion in terms of breaking up the relationship because it just feels a bit overwhelming and scary, and she hasn't done it. Her mum drinks a bit too much and is quite tricky. Her sister is so spoiled and horrible, and she expects the whole world to revolve around her, and she treats Jade really badly. And she has three lovely friends who she works with. She works at a set design company in London, and she just hasn't, apart from her friends, she hasn't really got anyone in her life who's kind and respectful to her. Everyone sort of takes advantage of her and stuff, and they treat her like a bit of a doormat, really. And she's out running and she sees this stack of paper and she picks it up, and it's a script. And when she starts reading the script, it's conversations between someone called Jade with people in their life who has the same names as the people in her life. And she's reading it like, what the hell is this? And then later on in that day, or in the next couple of days, she'll have the exact conversation that was in the script. And so she can kind of see what's coming. And she's trying to rewrite the script of her life, basically, to make positive changes. And it's sort of Jade's growth as this manages to happen. So this was really lovely. I really enjoyed it. It was a really positive book, and I could just feel Fearne's kind of life wisdom coming through the book as well. So I gave this one 4 stars, and I really, really enjoyed it. The penultimate book that I have to wrap up was our book club book for June. which was Cider with Rosie by Laurie Lee. Everyone said in our book club that they were so excited to read this book. Some people had read it before and really loved it. But I really didn't like it that much. Again, I was reading it when I was ill, so it might have been partially due to that. But I got it from the library and it was just... I thought it's basically... So it's set in a village in the Cotswolds in the... I want to say the 1930s? No, maybe it's there's people are coming back from war, but actually maybe it's the First World War. I can't remember which it is now. But it's around the First or Second World War time. And Laurie lives in this house, which is kind of falling down, ramshackle house, with his mum and his siblings. There's quite a lot of siblings. His mum's a bit sort of chaotic. His dad's been away at war, and then kind of after he comes back, he never sort of rejoins the family home. And it's his tales of what it's like growing up in the countryside in that time, which I thought would be really interesting, but it's not very linear. It's done in sort of... It's almost like interlinked short stories about different times in his childhood. But there was also like really weird and unpleasant stuff in there, like about how him and his pals had planned to hide in the woods to wait for this girl who was coming home from church and rape her. And I was like, what the hell? Like, that's not normal behaviour. Like, and it was never acknowledged that that wasn't normal behaviour or that it was horrendous or anything like that. They didn't do it because they sort of bottled it at the last minute. But that's what they were planning on doing. And there was just some stuff in there that I thought, what? Like, I don't know. I just found it quite slow, quite boring, and just really weird stuff in there like that. And so I think I gave it like 2.5 stars. I really didn't enjoy it that much. I didn't make it to the book club because I was ill. But I don't know what everyone else thought in the end. But it wasn't for me, that one. And then the last one that I have to talk about, which I really loved. I've mentioned this before in a Friday Reads when I was reading it, but I haven't finished it then. And this is Like Perpetual by Frances Spufford. So as I said before, the reason I heard about this book because I was watching an older video from Sarah Freshly or Freshly Read Books, and it was one of her, if not her favourite book of the year, a couple of years ago. It was on the Booker Prize long list in 2021, so it's probably that year. And this book was so good. It's about 5 children who were killed in a bomb which landed in Woolworths in London in the Second World War. And this did actually happen, but he's changed. These children who were in this book aren't the children who got killed in Woolworths, and he's set it in a fictional London borough as well. I think it's called Bexford. And it's imagining the prologue is like a slow motion of this bomb coming through Woolworths and blowing the whole thing to pieces. But then it basically, that's like T+0, and then it basically every 15 years you get one day of what would have happened to those 5 children had they not died. So we are following them all through their lives, and there are 3 men and 2 women, and none of them are going on to be famous or, you know, curing cancer or anything like that. They're going through like just normal lives, normal existences, but we are following them and their good times, their bad times, their jobs, their families, what happens to them. And all the time we keep thinking, but this didn't happen because they died. And that's really weird and really sad at the same time. And there are bits, the last chapter for all of the people I found really, really incredible because it plays with the time. It plays with time as a metaphor. It plays with images of time, of light, and how it sort of winds all their stories down and kind of gives you this glimpse of none of this ever happened, but it feels so real at the same time. And I just loved seeing the character arc for each of these people. And some of them are really unlikable. One in particular, he's horrible. And my favourite guy, just watching him become like a husband and then a dad and then a granddad and a granddad who looks after his grandchildren, and what happens is his grandchildren grow up and they go through their own difficulties, and all of the things that you realise, like, none of those people would have existed because he died in the bomb. And there's just so many kind of existential themes that you can sort of go off in your mind and think about because of this book. I really, really liked it. I thought it was wonderful, and I would really highly recommend it. I gave this one 5 stars, and yeah, I just think if that sounds like up your street, then I would definitely check it out because it was so good. So I think that's all the books that I've read since I last checked in with you. I don't think I've forgotten anything. I have read one other book, but it was for like a themed reading vlog that I'm doing, so I'm not going to talk about that one now. I'm reading loads of different things at the moment, and normally I get a bit stressed if that's happening, but I'm not getting stressed actually. I'm just like enjoying picking up what I'm in the mood for. So like, just to like literally throw out the names, I'm reading Sweet Sorrow by David Nicholls on my Kindle. I'm listening to How Beautiful We Were by Imbolo and Mbue, which is our book club book. I'm reading The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Bronte. I'm reading a children's book from the library called Foxlight, which was listed for the prize, which is for nature writing. Is it the Wainwright Prize? And I'm still reading Loving What Is by Byron Katie, which is like a spiritual book. And then I'm also just started my TBR spin for July, which is Raw Speed by Tai Woffinden, who's a triple world champion speedway rider, and this is his memoir of his speedway career, which is still ongoing. He hasn't retired. So yeah, I've got lots on the go, but I'm just picking up what I fancy when I fancy it, and I'm enjoying it actually. I'm going on holiday in a couple of weeks, so it would be nice to finish some of those books off before I go on holiday, so I can sort of plan my holiday TBR, which I always love doing. I know we all love doing holiday TBRs. But anyway, let me know if you've read any of those books, or if you'd like to read any of those books, what you've been reading, what your favourites have been recently, any recommendations as always. And I hope that you're having a lovely week, that you're enjoying the sun, that you're healthy, and I will speak to you all soon. Bye.